Welcome to the regular board meeting of August 20th, 2019. At this time, would you please make sure your cell phones are off? And at this time, I'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Cobwell?
Here.
Mr. Lillis here. Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Ruggles?
Here.
Andrea Voorhees?
Present.
Liz Smith?
Here.
Mike Powell?
Here. Very good. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda, Mr. Clerk.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion. Looking for support.
Support.
I have support for approval of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's have it. Item number 5, public comment. This time you'll have 3 minutes to come up and speak your mind of generally things that are not on the item, because we generally talk about those when we get to them. You just need to identify yourself for the recorder of the board. You have to go to the stand.
Okay. Hello. My name is Tony Meisel and I live on Pinecrest Drive. I have been here the last 2 months explaining of the problems myself and my neighbors have been having with our septic systems. Our committee has been working with the township for over a year now and to provide relief through extending the main line from Bogey Lake Road down to into our subdivision. I had explained that we'd requested Pinecrest Drive and Pinecrest Court. 10 minutes prior to last month's meeting, Aaron Potter gave me some information and said the costs would be forthcoming the next day. That did not happen. In fact, it took 2 weeks, and when we finally received the info, it was very confusing and we had questions. But I am happy to report that after several messages to Aaron, this afternoon we finally had a conversation with Aaron answering our questions from the last email. I think we finally have information that is needed to take to our committee and discuss it with them. I am not sure how it's going to work out, but at least we are addressing the needs of those who are in need of a new septic system, as well as the environmental needs to stop raw sewage draining into our beautiful lake. We met with Janine Smith in assessing last week. Janine was very helpful and answered several important questions. We appreciated her time. This has been a long and confusing project, which I believe can be simplified. I'm hoping my neighbors will understand the information and complications and will allow us to move forward with the project. I appreciate any assistance that you have given. I will be back to give you updates because I believe it's important for you to continue to keep an eye on this project as it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony, you've been here 3 times and you still haven't called me.
No, we have. We
I
have
haven't-
called.
You need,
We don't get calls back.
I have no record of anyone calling from Pinecrest, calling my office.
I don't know.
Yeah, call and ask for Patricia Pergament, specifically.
Patricia?
Yeah, Trish
Wait,
Pergament.
I gotta write this down.
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Trish Pergament. She's my exec.
Sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Pergament.
Oh, no wonder.
Just Trish.
Trish.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
All
But
right.
hopefully,
Thank you.
we're moving forward.
That was the intent all along.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Did I give you the okay?
Yeah.
Decided to get up there? All right.
Do I have the okay?
Yes, you.
Name's Peter Piccinotto, 8771 Townsend Drive, White Lake. One, I do want to start off with thanking Aaron Potter, the iron filtration, great thing. Thank you guys. It's been a blessing. I noticed a significant difference from having. Hopefully someday the other 20% will get on board soon because it has been a blessing.
Sooner than you think.
Very good. Thank you very much. 2, about when Greg was up there in your seat, Rick, when we started asking about the audio, video, and all that, I was that time there was going to be a delay because of the primaries and all that. We're a year away from it. Hopefully we're going to keep the audio and video going, and we're not going to put it in limbo because we're concerned about board members grandstanding. I think the public is smart enough to understand, and maybe we somehow as a supervisor you could stop if that goes on. But we should not be stopping the audio and video telecasting to our citizens out there just because of primaries coming up. The third item is the compensation committee. I sent you back in December an idea about it. We talked. You said we were going to set up a meeting. We have nothing. What I propose is nothing more than what's in the MTA handbook. There are 3 ways of compensation. One is a committee. There are numerous committees out there today that do it. Even a number of the townships actually take you to the MCA handbook in order to show you the things about compensation that you can do. We have nothing like that. I'm asking that we look at it. I know, Mike, you're concerned, Mr. Powell was your concern, but it's a recommendation. The Planning Commission makes a recommendation, Parks and Rec make a recommendation. The board has the ability to decide whether the recommendation makes any sense or not. That's to answer your question. There's also a concern that maybe we'll put 5 people on there that will be all pro towards pay raises. Well, if that's happened, I think the citizens will be able to see that. But remember, though the supervisor gets to pick them, the board gets to vote on them. So I think it's a thing that it's time that the citizens start to determine, the people determine the raises, not the government determine their own raises. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piccionato. Anyone else? Seeing none, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Mr. Clerk?
No other questions on the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for support?
Support.
I have support on the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Item number 7, minutes. Approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 16th, 2019. Any questions or comments on the minutes or corrections?
Oh, Miss.
Ms. Smith?
Just one quick one. On page 9, under my own trustee comments, it says August 30th, and it just should be August 3rd.
Thank you. Mr. Lilly?
One other correction that was called in on page 5. Said Trustee Smith approved the purchase of 3 Lucas 3 units, and that should be the purchase of 2.
Thank you. Any other comments? Looking for a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve. I have support for the minutes by Mr. Powell. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. 7B, approval of the minutes, special board meeting, August 1st, 2019. Questions or comments on the minutes? Mr. Lilly?
Mr. Supervisor, one additional correction on page 5 of 5. It says Supervisor Kowal said that this committee comes from all walks and all talks. Meeting minutes are available. He wants to be very transparent. Mrs. Smith should be feels instead of fell or feel.
Oh, okay.
With the addition of an S under.
Very good, thank you. Any other comment? Seeing none, looking for approval of the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of August 1st.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support for August 1st minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you very much. Next item is a public hearing with a resolution. And we will have a hearing to confirm the special assessment role for the road maintenance on Meadow Lane Special Assessment District. So that being said, I will take the time to open the public hearing on that. And a roll call vote.
Make a motion to open the public.
I beg your pardon. Make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll support your motion.
Support from Mr. Lilly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we'll go to a roll call vote.
Mr. Kowal?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman?
Yep.
Mr. Ruggles?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Mike Powell?
Yes.
That was a double yes, so everybody can talk double. Anyone at this time that has any input on or comment regarding the hearing to confirm the special assessment role for the road maintenance on Meadow Lane, please do so now. Seeing none, moving on.
Motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close, looking for support.
Support.
Has support from Mr. Ruggles. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Janine, anything you want to add to this?
Nope, I don't think so. It's pretty straightforward. Done every 5 years.
Yep. Okay. Looking for a motion to approve Resolution 19-027. Mr. Lilly?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 19027 to confirm special assessment role for the district designated as Meadow Lane road maintenance.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Ruggles. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay. 8B, hearing to establish emergency sewer connections for 2019-2002 Special Assessment District. Is that correct? 2000?
Should be 2019-02-.
2000, if I read it right. 2019 dash, oh, well, there's a dash missing on mine, that's why it looks a little weird. Dash 02, Special Assessment District. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing. I'd like to entertain a motion. A motion from,
Motion to open public hearing on the emergency sewer SAD.
looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Powell. Roll call vote.
Mr. Kowal?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Scott Ruggles?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Liz Smith?
Yes.
Mike Powell?
Yes.
Very good. At this time, we are now in the public comment of the Special Assessment District to be known as Emergency Sewer Connection 2019-02. Anyone have any interest or comment at this time on this subject matter? Seeing none, moving on.
Motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing. Looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Any questions or comments on the board? As we know, this is our emergency sewer hookup that we started here. This board started several years ago and has been successful. And we continue to have a very positive view of having people hooked up to the sewer.
Yes.
We do work hard, and our DPS director works diligently to try to make sure that these things happen. So I always appreciate his efforts for that. Mr. Lilly.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 19028 to establish and maintain a special assessment district be known as Emergency Sewer Connections 2019-02.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Roman for Resolution 19-028. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Moving on to 9A. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Supervisor, in the packets that all of you board members had received was a resolution, and as I had indicated in my phone conversation to at least the trustees and meeting today with Supervisor Kowal, it was not my intention to include that resolution. However, the application for a liquor license has been pending in my office since January of 2018. The gentleman is in the process of making what appears to be a substantial financial commitment to White Lake Township. My records as of this morning indicate that he has applied for a building permit, but has not been granted one yet. There's still some issues that need to be taken care of. However, I think it was his intention to come to the meeting tonight to ask for that resolution to be passed so they can proceed with the liquor license itself. It was not my intention to do so. However, and it had always been a long-standing issue with the board that part of that requirement is they make a substantial investment in the community and has received taxes have been paid, the building has been inspected and whatever, and obviously we're a little ways away from the building portion being finalized at this point. So the item was discussion really of what the board wanted to do. I think from the builder's standpoint, or the owner's standpoint, he wishes to see the board make a commitment that he's gonna be able to obtain a license upon completion of that, which was really, again, my intention to ask for, but then again, I assumed that the gentleman was gonna be here tonight to represent his avenue, and as per our discussions with the three electeds today, obviously we feel a little bit different in our positions of how to make sure that after this substantial investment that he's going to be protected with a license at this particular point. So I just wanted to clarify that to the board and maybe suggest, if the gentleman isn't here, to table this for further discussion, and maybe more things will have happened by then.
Very good, Mr. Lilly. I know that there are a few items, actually quite a few items that still need to be addressed. There's no doubt in my mind this gentleman's making a serious investment, and we all look forward to having another eatery in our community. So if he keeps pushing forward, we'll keep pushing for him. And I think it's just a matter of
I
time.
think Aaron had verified that from his department that they have made a substantial, probably investment that is going on right now. But like I say, I guess I'm gonna maybe suggest to the board, because the gentleman is not here, that maybe we table this till such time as he can appear and basically present his needs, and maybe by that time these other items will be
Counselor,
taken care of.
no problem tabling?
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
Before we table, I just wanted, I just certainly wanted to concur with Clerk Lilly that just as the township wants to make sure that the applicant is going to perform, and if we give him a license prematurely, he has the right to then go and sell that and do whatever he wants and not improve the township. At the same time, I think it's behooves the township to represent properly that if he does what he's claiming to do, we have a license ready for him. And I think that's the intent of the board, and I would want to make sure that he understood that.
I believe he does understand that. I for one do not want to see him get to a position where his facility is weeks away from being completed and he's months away from getting a license. As we all know, it's critical. You go to a Mexican restaurant without a margarita, I mean, it's going to be serious mayhem.
Yes.
So
So bring it to the board already?
there was some conversation once before. I don't remember the specifics, but you wanted us to move forward with it. But again, there are several things in this process that Mr. Lilly still needs to be satisfied on his list.
The conversation before wasn't as lengthy, but really brought it to the board's attention that we do have somebody that made an application for the license, and it's been sitting in the office, like I say, since January of last year. So it's taken some time for him to get.
Yeah, he's been working through his processes.
Well, he's under construction on his sanitary and
Yes.
water improvements, and has been since last.
It's been a few weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks now.
Yeah, so I know they're going to
Getting
town
close
over
to
there.
wrapping that up.
So,
Hey, I'm right here for the Mojave Cantina.
you are.
Yeah.
You look different tonight for some reason. I don't know why. Okay. How are you?
Good.
Please stand up and identify yourself. There's a microphone.
Right over there.
You can go there. That'd be great. Podium's great.
Hi, I'm Phil Sapatoris, looking to open a restaurant, Mojave Cantina in White Lake Township. 9135
Phil, how do you
Highland
spell
Road.
your last name?
Tsapatoris.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in the application that I've seen here, well, first of all, number one, thank you for coming to White Lake. Again, thank you for, complying with the requirements we've had, which you understand, the water and the sewer, and is very important, and it'll only make your building a better facility, and will enable you to have less problems. There is a process that you have to go through. I would recommend that you finish multiple items on this pre-application list that we have here at the township.
In regards to the liquor license?
in regards to the liquor
I
license?
believe we already satisfied everything on that
Quite a
list.
few here that I have that maybe that are not completed to my knowledge. So I would recommend that you schedule an appointment to come in, sit down, go over this. Let's make sure all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed and get you where you need to go so that you can have this thing moving along. I will tell you that the board, I can pretty well guarantee you the board will be very attentive to try to move this forward for you.
Okay, I like I said, I did this a year ago, over a year ago, so I thought we had everything in order.
There are some things that are still missing.
Okay,
It'll be in your best interest,
okay,
because of that gap of time, to come back in
okay,
and refamiliarize yourself with the documentation, just to make sure that everything is such.
Okay.
And then that way we can kind of, move it along as best we can, so,
He can have that if he wants.
okay.
Oh, Mike. Oh,
The owner.
for, Phil.
That's a copy of the township's ordinance. I highlighted what I noticed was lacking, but I
Okay.
understand that Mr. Lilly has gone through and made a list.
Okay.
So you do want to meet with him.
sure, yeah, I mean, like I said, Aaron said, we started the water and sewer install, so putting water in there for the restaurant and the entire building, so.
So I don't know the timing on all of this, but just so that the board knows, the Liquor Control Commission will not look at his application until they receive the resolution from this board. So I know that Terry had indicated he wanted it completed, but just so you know, an cart before the horse kind of issue here.
What's the timeline, Lisa?
Yeah.
Once we send a resolution in?
So it used to be 3 to 6 months, but I know that they have really expedited that, particularly for new businesses. Have you heard right now?
You mean
how long?
in terms of getting a liquor license from Lansing? It could take over 6 months. The last license, I currently have a license in Clawson, and it took over 6 months to
But
get
I
it.
understand that they've sped the process up with
Okay,
Andy
I haven't heard
Delaney.
that.
Okay.
No.
So I understood that they've sped it up where you could get it much sooner and
Okay.
even like a temporary one, so you can open right away and then they'll finish the process. But they won't even start that until they get this resolution. I just
Right.
wanted this board to make sure that they understood that.
And so if you can go over everything,
Sure.
we can bring this back next month, and if, we'll try to see what we can do to kind of try to keep things moving along
Okay,
for you, okay?
All right, thank
It's
you.
just been some
Question for
time
Phil.
has passed. Yes, Mr. Roman
Hey,
has a
Phil, when
question.
are you anticipating actually opening your doors?
soon, I mean, I'm hoping February, so, but I don't want to wait for the liquor, be ready and wait for the liquor license. That's why I was here today. I was
Next
hoping to
month
get,
we oughta.
Yeah, we're getting
Next
close.
month, yeah.
Getting close.
We're getting close.
yeah, so I thought after I had all my permits in order that I would be able to come to the board and get the,
And again, there
Okay.
are a few
Right.
deficiencies, and we just have to make sure they're all in place.
right,
Okay, and
I think
again-
our intent is to get you your liquor license.
okay,
So, okay,
all right, thank you.
thank you. With that being said,
Would like to just mention to have the
Yes.
gentleman call my office
Yes.
tomorrow and make
Phil?
sure he has email a complete list. I'm not sure what Lisa had on hers, but,
That was the township ordinance.
okay. Well, Kathy and I went through there today and underlined, so
okay,
is that the same list?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
you can
Yours-
just have
yours
some
would probably be
communication
a
with the clerk's
simple-
office and try to just make
Okay.
sure everything's crystal clear.
Sounds
Okay.
good, thank you.
So we'll get you taken care of, okay? With that, I make a motion to postpone,
I'll support that.
okay? Postpone until next month's meeting, which is, what's the date? Got the calendar.
Third Friday in September.
September 17th.
Thank you, September 17th. Okay, motion support, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you very much.
Phil, thanks for coming to White Lake.
Yeah, and we'll
Appreciate it.
keep this rolling, we just gotta have everything in order
Okay,
before
yeah,
we.
I'll have it ready by next
Okay, so as you review that, you may see some of the things
Okay.
that come
And
along.
I was doing bus training in Clawson today, and I actually went by your restaurant.
Okay.
It looks nice from the outside. I wanted to stop and get off the bus, but I couldn't. So, welcome to White Lake.
Nice from the inside. I had dinner there with my family a couple months ago. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we sent the spies out.
I look great.
9B, Resolution 19-034, to participate in a cooperative road project with the RCOC to install roundabouts at 2 strategic locations in White Lake Township. One is at Elizabeth Lake Road and Oxbow Lake Road, and the other is at Elizabeth Lake Road and Tegadyne Road. Now, this is an area that obviously is recognized of major congestion, and I have been courting the road commission for some time to try to get them to look at this project. They anticipated that it was going to be in 23 or 24, maybe so. Recently, Mr. Lilly and I had a meeting with them, and they told us that they would seek out some participation, and if we could anticipate this project being completed in 20 or 21. So it would be a huge difference to the folks that use the Union Lake corridor and the Tegadyne corridor. And it's our intention to see that the township is as safe as possible. There was one morning that I was there, and there was an emergency vehicle trying to go through there, and the moms were dropping the kids off at schools, and the cars were, they used to pull over on the shoulder, and the road commission was trying to be nice and dug the trenches out for better drainage, but the problem is now the people didn't want to go on the shoulder because they're afraid they're going to go in the ditch. So now the road's plugged up. So it's like they put a cork in a bottle inadvertently, and not with any intent, but it just happened. So we're looking at a cost, bless you, we're looking at a cost to the township of $150,000 for roughly $2 million worth of improvement. And I believe this is a bargain at this price, and I believe the cooperation between the township and the county is an example of what happens when intergovernmental things get together and can make things happen. Any questions from the board?
Is this gonna be a mini roundabout? 'Cause there's
Yeah,
I mean, there's
one will be a mini and one will be more of a regular.
So closer, it'll be more similar to the one at Cooley Lake Road and Carroll Lake Road?
I'm not going to comment on that
Okay.
until we have a drawing.
Yeah.
So the roundabout in Michigan is constantly evolving.
Everybody, yeah.
So until the plan is actually designed, I can't tell you
No, that's fine.
exactly. But I do know the one at Oxbow will be different than the one
Absolutely.
at
One
Tegadyne
has to
because
be,
of the
yeah.
proximity and the particular issues that they have with the property there, and
Mhm.
all those types of things.
Fine.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes, sir.
certainly this is a perfect example of how we might progress in our road improvements here in the township. Past procedure is if we ignore it, the road commission ignores it, and we don't get anything done.
Right.
There's a lot to be done here in this township, and I appreciate yours and the staff's position to be able to go after these things, and it's an extremely good investment for the township.
I believe it is, and in particular of its proximity to our civic center area and the future for that area. So I believe it is a good move. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Lilly?
As you had indicated, the road commission said that this was probably 3-4 years off, and based on the conversation and with the township contribution, we can get it much quicker. I'm not a proponent of roundabouts, but it appears from the county standpoint that these are the fixes to all of the transportation problems that we're having. And while we're on this discussion, not only do I support these two roundabouts, the financing of the roundabouts, I want to interject to the board that we are going to be thinking about a third roundabout at the entranceway to the Township Civic Center and J.C. Penney. That has been proposed by the Road Commission as well. And even though that the discussion was at the Road Commission that the funding that the board will provide the Road Commission is funding for the actual construction of the project and not necessarily the preliminary engineering portion, which I think we need to keep the money in the bank until such time as we see some real construction. But on the other note, this third roundabout I think is critical from our standpoint and our planning of our civic center that we move forward and get the Road Commission committed to the engineering portion of that. Then I would suggest why that we're considering the other two roundabouts that we considered third with a contribution to engineering that will hopefully expedite and not hold up our plans for the Civic Center itself.
An amount
Thank
you
you.
had in mind, Mr. Lilly? The amount you had in mind?
Somewhere contribution of the 75,000, but it be used for the actual engineering so that we can put the pressure on the road commission to get this engineering portion done, which is the most important part.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, so are you gonna make two
I'd like to make two motions.
motions?
Can I just-
Yes.
Mike, you might be more familiar with this than I am, but this whole cooperative road project issue has a statute that they refer to. And I thought, and I haven't looked at it in a while, but I thought it specifically said that we cannot contribute towards the engineering, that our contribution has to go actually to the construction.
That's not correct.
No, I
I
don't believe that's
see.
correct. We've
Okay.
done it both ways. And as a matter of fact, we've done it to where we've gone to outside engineering, and we've paid for that in other communities, and then we give those plans to the road commission, and then they do the work. So I don't believe that's correct.
It could be that that's the language for an SAD that the road commission establishes.
I believe you are more correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
I think
right.
you're on it, yeah.
I knew I read it, but I couldn't.
Yes.
First motion I'd like to make is a motion to approve Resolution 19034, payable at the time of actual construction in the amount of not to exceed 150,000, basically 75,000 for each roundabout.
I'll support that. So I have motion, I have support. Question, Mr. Roman?
Can you amend the motion to take the money out of the general fund, or add that to your
Yeah,
motion?
we can add that to
We
it.
can add that. The funds will come from the general fund. Okay. We have motion, we have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it.
Who supported it, Rick? I'm sorry.
Oh, I supported it.
You support? Thank you. My next motion is I'd like to make a motion to, a board motion to approve the $75,000 to be used for the engineering of the third roundabout at the intersection of Civic Center Drive, if I want to say that, and
Elizabeth Lake
the
Road.
entranceway to J.C.
Elizabeth
Penney's.
Lake Road. Yeah. Okay. I have a motion, looking for support.
Support?
I have support by Mr. Powell.
Yeah, I wanted to
Mr.
also
Roman?
amend
Those
that one
monies
to
to be
take the
general
money
fund.
out of the general fund. Thanks, Jerry.
Any other questions from the board?
Are you not using the resolution in your packets?
No, there isn't one for that.
Oh.
This is a separate item we're trying to move forward with. Good, Mr. Powell?
I am.
Support? Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. This will be a huge step for us moving in the right direction. And I'd like to thank Mr. Lilly for working with me on this matter and helping me move this forward. There's a lot of things that come at us, and some of the things we have to prioritize, and this is one of the things we felt was very important for the future of the community. In particular, if you're a motorist sitting on Elizabeth Lake Road. So, okay. We have another resolution, Resolution 19-035, to participate in another cooperative road project with the RCLC to pave approach at Sugden Lake Road. Now, Sugden Lake Road over at Bogey Lake Road, as you know, is very similar to one of the first cooperative programs that we did, which was Cedar Island to the east. There are very similar problems there. The roadway has wandered. It is just undefined. It throws gravel out on Bogey Lake Road. It's an extremely close proximity to the school, and it's also in the part of a curb. And with that being said, they have asked us to participate in this, at the same level that we did for the last project, which would be the asphalt contribution. In this particular case, it would not exceed $25,000. They will pick up all of the other ancillary costs, the grading, the drainage, right-of-ways, anything else that has to be done. So this would probably put a value, and it's a little hard to do with in-kind services with the county, but somewhere between $55,000 and $65,000 is a guesstimate So our share of that would be 25. I believe it's money well spent to continue improvements on the roads, and in particular in that corridor for the amount of traffic that we have. And I think it's the right decision. Any questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
Mr. Supervisor, unlike the previous ones that really are there to enhance the traffic flow in the road system in White Lake, of which we point the finger at the road commission as being responsible really for that, and our money is to entice them to take White Lake Township projects first and make them priority. These are also just as important, but they will never be done by the road commission. They're just to enhance the traffic and the welfare of the people in the township by paving these gravel roads and the entrances out to the paved streets in the township. So therefore, the percentage, the roundabouts were about a 10% share of the construction cost. This is going to be about 50% of the share, but that means we're getting 50% from the road commission, which we wouldn't get anything for at all if we paid for it, if we did it all ourselves as a township project. So this again is a very worthwhile project to enhance the drivability of the township roads. We can get the gravel off the roads and get those entrances paved on most of our major gravel roads to the county streets. This township will be much better off. So I'm again in full support of this.
Thank you, sir.
Supervisor?
Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 19-035, amount not to exceed $25,000.
I have a motion.
Does it come from the general fund? Coming
Yes,
from the general
yes.
fund.
I have a motion from Mr. Ruggles, looking for support.
Support?
Support from Mr. Powell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Item 10, new business. Request to approve water system GIS reliability study and general plan update proposals from DLZ. I'm going to let Mr. Potter brief us on this.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Yes, tonight we're asking the board to approve a proposal from DLZ. Part of our requirements under PA 399, also known as the Safe Drinking Water Act, are to conduct reliability studies every 5 years. Our last one was 2014. We are due for that study to be done again. And also to update our general plan, which would be to incorporate any new projects into our overall township water system map. Most of that work is done, however, new projects from the last couple of years would need to be added into that. And so the reliability study essentially is a study of capacity versus demand, and followed by a list of recommendations to make sure that those things line up. That's basically
Pretty much it in a nutshell.
pretty much it in a nutshell.
And I notice that, if I'm not mistaken, this is taking us from present day demand to 2019 to projected maximum hourly demand 2039?
Projected is the key.
I understand.
And so they're still going to be required every 5 years.
Mhm.
And as we know, we don't know tomorrow who's
No.
going to walk in with a development plan.
Correct.
But yes, this will, take into account the general township master plan.
And I also know this is part of one of our requirements for our licensure and our water.
Yes.
MDEQ, so you don't have a lot of options to do it, but
It's the right move,
it's the right move. Yeah.
regardless of whether it was a mandate or if we wanted to do it or not. It's a good idea to conduct these studies to make sure that you're being proactive and, to build these public infrastructure projects takes a long time. And so we don't want to be behind development. We'd like to be in line with development.
Don't want to play catch up.
Correct.
I get it. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Roman?
No, I'd like to make a motion, if I may,
Yes, sir.
not to exceed $31,037 to use DLZ for the water system GIS reliability study and general plan update.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
A support from Mr. Ruggles. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you very much. Item 10B, first reading of fee ordinance amendments. You'll see before you, this is the fee ordinance that has had a variety of different amendments through it. I would like to move it on to second reading, if we could. And obviously, we want to take a look at it as close as you can. I'm sure you have certain comments. We can talk about some of them now, but I'm sure there'll be more that will come up between now and the second reading, and we can have a conversation about those during the week. Mr. Powell?
I know it's going to surprise you, but I have a comment. If the board could turn to page 2, as well as maybe Aaron could turn to page 2. I talked to Aaron this afternoon about this. These ordinance and fee ordinance amendments are very good, but on page 2, we've been working diligently in the township to upgrade some of our definitions, and not the least of which is to eliminate the indirect and direct capital charges, which are very confusing. In this particular case, a capital connection charge is meant to be the standard tap fee for both sanitary and water, and we're trying to incorporate those in all our ordinances. However, the lateral benefit charge that we are instituting, and we're redefining the indirect connection charge to the lateral benefit charge, is meant to be a charge for those homeowners or developments that did not participate in extending the utility to their site. So that means somebody else paid for it, and they're going to take advantage of it. And so the lateral benefit charge.
Hence the benefit.
Hence the benefit. As identified in page 2, at the bottom of page 2, the lateral benefit charge in this particular case is defined, the definition associated with this in this line item is really the definition of the capital charge, the typical connection charge. And the definition under the direct connection charge or the capital charge is really the lateral benefit charge. So the two definitions need to be swapped out. They're modified, I think, a little bit. Aaron, I think, has something to say about this as well.
Yeah, so you are correct. We did change the definitions in the sanitary ordinance. However, we have not modified that in the water ordinance yet. So I think at this point, we've kind of gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves trying to change that language here. I believe we need to actually leave this section alone until we change the ordinance. And then we can make sure that the definitions in the fee ordinance match the new definitions in the ordinance.
You're going to want them to be consistent.
The problem, of course, is the definition is totally opposite between the two ordinances, and if somebody quotes this
Yeah, he's suggesting to remove these changes and not incorporate these changes now.
at this time.
Until he
that
votes
makes
on them.
sense.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we haven't amended the ordinance to reflect that yet. I reviewed that after you and
Thank
I
you.
had our discussion yesterday.
Okay.
Realized that I made a mistake modifying this because, while I am excited to get rid of indirect and direct, we haven't gotten that far with the water yet.
Yeah. So we ought to probably bring that along as sooner than we can, as soon as we can. And then the last line in this item, and it's just a dumb thing, capital is spelt wrong in the last sentence in this, on this page. It should be AL at the end instead of OL. So, but that's again a change that we can make when this is brought before us again. Otherwise,
And again, at this time, I'd invite all of the trustees to review this document, because there's a lot of information here, and we get busy with other things, but every now and then this falls under the housekeeping.
Yep.
And we all need to participate in this. Any questions that you have, anything that relates, obviously, Mr. Potter will be available, or any coordinating fees in here to any particular department, everybody will be available to answer questions.
so hopefully we can get the two ordinances back before us again as soon as possible to at least fix the definitions, at the very least.
I'm going to leave it up to you to decide whether we want to open up the water ordinance for a review on just one definition I
Prefer
don't.
not. If you can have it done by tomorrow at noon, we're good.
Yeah. So I think for now, just being honest with the workload that we have, that's typically something that we'd look at during the winter when we slow down.
Okay.
Right now, we're pushing hard for upcoming winter.
Yeah. No, I'm
So-
right with you, Aaron.
Okay, all right.
And Mike, you might recall, years ago, the township established committees to look at both water and sewer.
Yes.
And it's kinda, it fizzled.
Life got in the way.
Yes.
Yes.
We made a lot of improvement to the sewer ordinance. I think there's still work to be done there. The water side is, it was in better shape, so we didn't focus our efforts there, but no,
Right.
we're getting close to it.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from the board members regarding this? With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to move it on to second reading from someone,
As amended?
as amended. Someone will have to make that motion.
I'm just suggesting.
Mr. Supervisor, I make the motion to move ordinance number 129, fee ordinance amendments on to second reading as amended. And as the staff comes up with anything else that they find between now and then.
And review.
I'll support.
I have a motion, I have support by Mr. Roman. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Eagle Landing preliminary site plan approval.
Hi there.
Mr. O'Neill, you're so quiet.
I am. I'm trying.
That's a personal nature.
Yeah. So, in your packet and soon to be on the screen is a project called Eagle Landing that is. Actually, this is. I don't know what's going on here.
Just a quick interjection. If we do lose power, hopefully our generator will turn on.
That's a big hopefully.
That's nice.
Just rain.
So, this is a project that went to the Planning Commission on the 18th of last month, at which time they recommended preliminary site plan approval. This is a 10-acre parcel that is just south of, here we go, the high school, just south of Bogey Lake Road and Cedar Island Road intersection. You can see the school complex here. This is the Wexford Manor neighborhood that is very similar in layout as this proposed project is. And this wooded area, which was previously owned by the Huron Valley School District, was purchased by Mr. Chuck Burt, and he intends to basically do almost a carbon copy or mirror image of the Ridgefield Court Wexford Manor neighborhood. I think he's going to get a couple fewer houses. I think there may be 2 more in that neighborhood. He's proposing 18 homes, and again, it will be in this wooded area. And this is Walnut Ridge. So here is a plan. Page 20. The mouse is not fully cooperative. So it's pretty straightforward. It's a, like I mentioned, it's a cul-de-sac. Here. It's a cul-de-sac street. A couple of conditions that were added that aren't shown on the plan that you've seen were a sidewalk, and this is again preliminary approval, for a sidewalk along Bogey Lake Road. The ordinance calls for a 6-foot sidewalk. And then also an easement between the lots at the very, I'm looking at the wrong
Yeah,
project.
go down a couple, there you go.
They're so
There you
close
go.
that I can't even tell the difference between the two, yeah. So between lots 10 and 11, the Planning Commission asked for a 10-foot easement so that a future sidewalk could be connected through the end of this neighborhood and onto the school property, which would basically be, back in here. Obviously, it's pretty wooded on the school side, but this opens up a possibility to do it in the future, and it's just good planning. I don't think any of you were on the board when this mistake happened, which is to, so I can safely say it, which is to omit the requirement for sidewalk along a major road, which never should have happened, but it happened all over the country years ago. And so a very similar neighborhood developed less than 20 years ago has no sidewalk out in front, but this one will not duplicate that that error. So Those are two additions that were, I mean, I believe the sidewalk at Bogey Lake Road would have been shown on a final plan. This is just preliminary. So it moved very quickly through the planning commission because of the nature of it. It's zoned R1C. It's surrounded by similar zoning, similar lot sizes. There's no, I don't believe, no deficiency that was called out that can't be addressed through plan modification. So it really is very straightforward.
Okay.
So, yes, this will be on sanitary sewer, but will not be on water.
On water. Yeah.
So, yeah, right.
Very good. Okay.
So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. And Mr. Burt is in the audience, and if you have any questions for him,
It's, like you said, it's a mirror image of the other one.
pretty much, yeah.
Almost identical. To the point if I did the same thing you did when I first pulled the plan
I
up.
don't feel so bad then.
Looking, what am I missing here? And then I realized it was the next one over.
I think
So-
there are 20 or 21 units in Wexford Manor. There are only 18
Right.
in Eagle Landing.
So it's a little lesser density.
Correct.
It's a good area to do it in. The road will handle the traffic. If
Yeah,
we
the
keep
impact.
improving it, it'll handle more.
The impact is pretty negligible with 18 homes.
Right. Any questions from the board members? Mr. Lilly?
Mr. Supervisor, and maybe I can, can I ask a question of the applicant?
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Burt?
Yep.
The township, unfortunately, and I'll get into this in a minute, in the ordinance, has a requirement of a 6-foot sidewalk out in Bogey Lake Road right-of-way. There are several of us on the board who have questioned the wisdom of only a 6-foot walkway. And because, in my experience, two bicycles can't even pass each other on a 6-foot pathway. And we're looking to tie this township together with pathways, and so I'm going to be asking this board and the township staff and through the Parks and Rec to see if we can't modify the requirement of a 6-foot pathway to an 8-foot pathway. And I'm going to ask you to please consider making the pathway in Bogey Lake Road an 8-foot pathway instead of a 6-foot pathway. Can't make you do that. I think you'll find that if you do it in asphalt, the cost of an 8-foot pathway is actually less than a 6-foot pathway because they can use an actually paving machine instead of having to do a lot of it by hand or doing it in concrete. So I'm asking you to consider that and maybe work with the staff on that issue. The other issue I'd like to bring before the board here is, and I brought it up before, is that I'd really like the planning staff and possibly the planning commission to do an investigation and evaluation to allow some private roads in the township. Right now, the zoning ordinance requires all developments to have public roads. Road commission doesn't want them. There's no benefit to any resident to live on a county roadway. 3 weeks after it snows, they'll come by and plow it after you've done it yourself anyway. They don't fill any potholes, they don't repair any cracks, they don't replace it in 15 years. And quite frankly, that should be done on a private level instead of the county level. And so I'd like the township to at least consider and start discussions on the allowable of private roads in the developments in White Lake Township. So that being said, I was going to try to offer that to you because it would save an immense amount of
I agree, because they tell me the county roads that I build are mine.
Yeah,
You come right out and tell me.
might as well be yours, only you design it to all their money, everything they want, which costs way more, and yet you're still all responsible for it. So
They tell me when they repave them in 15 years, they'll be sending us a bill too.
they will, absolutely, without a doubt. So
They don't plow, they don't do anything.
I was going to try to offer that to you. If you delay a little bit, we might sneak up on you, but right now we can't offer that to you. The board can't even offer that to you because it's in the zoning ordinance.
Yes, sir. We don't plan on starting until spring next year.
Okay, well, if we do what I want, we'll have a new ordinance by then. So,
Anything's a possibility, Michael.
thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the proof is in the pudding, and not to sidetrack onto that, but very quickly, we've had a number of people and a number of residents come in over the years and talk about the disrepair of their roads and the simple fact that when these roads were put in, there wasn't a road maintenance agreement put in place or very poorly put together. With today's knowledge of the problems that we have, we can look back and we can craft road maintenance agreements.
Absolutely right.
And the language that will protect the property owners and also allow for monies to be garnered over the years to replace that road.
Exactly right, thank you.
So I completely agree.
Okay.
We've got a couple of super subs around here that people come in and
Yeah.
squawk. I'll just
Yes.
leave that, okay?
Right.
And rightfully so. I mean, and again, even though we're working with accounting and doing what we can do, the county only has so many dollars and so many assets, and it's very difficult for them to do what they do. So
Right.
I agree completely. I didn't mean to sidebar into that, but
Thank
it's
you.
a very good point. Okay, that being said, Eagle Landing preliminary site plan approval, where were we?
I guess the recommendation would be to approve, subject to meeting all the conditions of the planning commission.
Mr. Lilly?
I'd like to make a motion to approve preliminary site plan for the Eagle Landing, subject to staff and consultants' recommendations.
I have a motion. Looking for support. I have support from Mr. Ruggles. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. 11D, Administrative Policies and Procedures Amendment. This is basically a first reading on that. Essentially, we have a similar situation as we did with fee ordinances, thank you, that we would like everyone to take a look at, review, make comment, and try to reorganize some of this stuff. It's been a number of years since this has been looked at, and in its entirety. And there are simple things. For example, today, even though we looked at certain things, Mr. Roman called to my attention that during a contract being performed, the supervisor only has the ability to approve an amount of $500 change order. That's one faucet. You know, so that's way out of touch. So these are the things that we need to look at, and we do need to move this along. It is time. It's been sitting around for a while, but we do need to have everybody take a look at it. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Lilly?
Based on our conversation today that we had, I have a number of issues to be discussed on the administrative policies, but not to hold this process up. And I agreed with what you had indicated in our meeting, that we could move this along to second hearing, and if there are a lot of other discussions that take place, that possibly it could be postponed or tabled at that time, second hearing. So
Okay.
I'm willing to make a motion to move the administrative policies along, at least for first reading, indicating to my board that I have a number of issues.
Not a problem. Anybody have an issue with that or a question?
No, but I have a number of issues as well. So if we're
Love
going
to
to,
get the
if we're going to
input.
table this or postpone
Postpone it.
then I can bring my concerns into the township regarding that.
Yeah.
That being said, maybe while we have a number of us here, I can ask a couple questions on these so that we can at least talk about them instead of just behind closed doors or in private room. On item number 2.4, besides a couple of these other things, on item 2.4, I wanted to ask the attorney a question regarding 2.4D is what it is. Our council has told us several times that no agency or municipality can really live up to the standards of the Roberts Rules. Nobody ever governs by the full Roberts Rules. And I wondered if there was some way while we're doing this, we can't at least accept that and modify section 2.4D that says all board meetings shall be conducted under Roberts Rules of Order, 9th edition, 1990. If we can't live up to it, we ought to state something that says as determined by the supervisor or something like that. At least allow us some leeway so the public says, I'm sorry, you're out of order, you're not doing it, and they tell us that we're not doing it exactly per our ordinance. And so we should probably look at that, and I didn't know what you thought of that.
There are other rules of procedure you can follow, and you can establish your own. You can go through Robert's rules and pick and choose what you want.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
You, you don't, my point is you don't even have to. So yes, you can actually say Robert's Rules of Order with the exception of, and
Is there a
you
Cliff's Note summary of Robert's rules?
So, well, there is dummies for dummies.
For dummies, yeah, that'd be good.
The thing about Robert's Rules, it's not that you can't ever live up to it, but it's 762 pages is the 11th edition, so it's things that you will never need.
Nor would we get anything done if we did that.
So really, the reality is, is probably a dozen motions that you will ever see. Robert's Rules lays out hundreds.
So can we look at this and maybe modify this section as well, if we could? Section 4.7B.
Oh, I know that's the procurement policy.
Yes, it is.
4.7.
So this is being, and I apologize, my fingers aren't as fast as they used to be, 4.7B. We're doing some modifying here, and it makes some sense to allow department heads to purchase things instead of the supervisor always being responsible. You know, if you need more pens or pencils or something like that, it makes some sense. However, there's no provision in here that gives guidance to the department heads or limits them. It limits them to $1,000 max, but it doesn't say out of their budgeted funds. It doesn't say if you don't have enough money in your budget, you can't do it. It doesn't give any direction whatsoever. So I think it would be wise for us to say at least out of your budgeted funds instead of giving them a carte blanche to just order anything. And
Well, they don't.
Mike here would have to take it out of road funds or something. And then just I asked the board to look at something. 10,000. This is asking. This is allowing the supervisor to spend up to $10,000 without coming back to the board. Mr. Supervisor is certainly organized enough to know that he's going to have a $10,000 bill sometime in the near future, and we might want to maybe modify that slightly or somehow make it to where he has to at least have one other board member or an elected official agreement with that in order to.
Yeah, there's some tools in the box,
Yeah.
so like that you know that we've talked about in the past, and simple things that there may be something that comes up that needs to move forward, and I have absolutely no objection to having another in-house official, like sign off on it additionally from 5 to 10. I mean, absolutely no objection. I mean,
okay.
My Bahama tickets aren't going to cost that much anyway, so I'm worried about it. Okay.
Well, we have a control because Terry and I signed the check.
That's right.
Well,
So-
and you can also, if you want the rest of the board to know it, you can add that the next board meeting, put it on as a consent item that you've done this.
Yeah, we've done this. Yeah, that's fine. It's just that we are embarking into and again, not to go off on a tangent, but very much keeping a why and what the reasoning is behind some of this is we're getting into some things that are going to start to move along and start to change, and we're going to be doing some adventurous things for the township. And there may be some needs that we may need to get out there and get done.
Or you can just have 2 meetings a month.
Or we can have 2 meetings every
We can
month.
do that.
Don't we do that now?
Which some of us want to. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Some of us we do. Sometimes we do have 2 meetings. But nonetheless, it's just there's reasons for the purpose.
And then I just had one additional thing, 4.7B, item 2 under B, and that's, I think that's on page 16 still, item 2 in the middle of the page there. In reading this, and I know we've just made miscellaneous changes on it, but it kind of reads odd, and I needed maybe the council to tell me what I'm doing wrong here. It says the township supervisor may make an authorized expenditure higher than that $10,000 after receiving the consent of the township clerk or treasurer. One or the other then would concur. But then it goes through and says if neither are available, so you only have the supervisor there, if neither are available, the consent must be obtained by at least one board member for a total of 2.
Supervisor and board member.
Okay, so we're maintaining the 2. So I was thinking, okay, 1 board member, but somehow we're still tied in. Okay, so at least 2 people.
It's very similar to what you and I were talking
Right.
about on the other end of things.
Okay.
And that's, we already do it in that respect for a higher amount.
Right.
And here, I just want to do it for that gap between the 5 and the 10.
Okay.
And there's no provision for it, so that was another reasoning for instituting that, because there's nothing to cover that gap.
So I'm certainly good with that. We need a checks and balance.
Yeah,
That's
I get it, yeah.
This is more than 10,000 though.
That's for over 10,000.
Correct.
Or whatever number we decide to change that to. Currently, it's, so that if the public knows, currently that number's 5,000, and the request is to jump to 10,000, which Everett Dirksen, those of you that are old enough to remember Everett Dirksen, he said, a billion there, here, a billion there, pretty soon you're talking real money, you know, and so $10,000 starts getting up there pretty far.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on your red list?
I'm good, thank you.
I would just say that I share some of his apprehension about changing these numbers. I know 5 to 10 is a significant jump. I feel like if we're meeting as often as we meet, then I'd hate to take it out of our hands to at least see it before it gets spent. So that, along with a few other items on this, I'll be bringing up at the next reading. But I share Mike's feeling towards that. And I mean, I remember once there was a lawnmower, and it was an emergency, you know, right? It was what, 7,000 or something. But I would prefer that we followed this policy and got some bids and got our approval. So that's just my thought.
Understood.
Make sure we understand it correctly, to make sure that, Scott, I believe we're going to be giving our comments to the staff and to the administration before the next meeting.
Correct.
Because there isn't really a second reading. We're going to table this or postpone it to get all our acts together and to have a final copy, and then we'll bring it in. There's no requirement of a second reading, I think.
Right,
is
no,
what it is,
there,
right?
there isn't, so we'll postpone it, but I look for your input. And we had to start this, and it's another housekeeping matter which has not been done for some period of time. There hasn't been a total rehash of this thing in a number of years. There's been little amendments here and there, but there's a lot of different things in here. Yes, please.
We didn't go through and read the whole.
I know that.
Yeah. But to your point, Mike, I don't think it's clear at this point. You're going to give your comments to staff. The changes aren't going to be made between first and second, because it's not going to be changed based on your comment, right? Because it needs to be a consensus of the board.
But you will get another red marked copy at the next meeting, right?
Of your changes?
Of all the suggestions.
Of all the
We'll do some
suggested
suggestions.
changes.
We'll do some suggestions.
Yeah, because
Right.
I've got 15 of them that
Yeah.
didn't get into this either.
Yeah, we all do.
We all do.
I guess I'm just trying to think. Trish typed this up.
We're going to make this purple
Yeah.
comments.
How
now.
is she going to incorporate all of the changes? Maybe like comments, like notes from everybody. I mean, I'm just thinking procedurally. It sounds
I will
like it'd
ask
be
her and ask her how she would like to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will leave
Okay.
it up to her.
That works.
So that's fine. Okay. That being said, I would like to make a motion to table the administrative policies and procedure amendments.
Table or postpone?
Postpone. How do I say that? Postpone. Thank you.
Postpone.
For
I'll support that.
future date uncertain.
Right.
I have support from Mr. Roman. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. And like I said, I look forward to everyone, you know, we need to do this every now and then.
Yep.
So that's been quite some time since that's been done. Old business, 11A, first reading of the ordinance to amend Chapter 18, Article 2 of the Fire Code. Hi, John.
There you go.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, board members. Seems like I'm always right at the end, doesn't it? I'm hoping you guys are kind of wore down, we can close right through this. Mr. Supervisor, I did receive one call today from Mr. Powell regarding the amendment. We chatted a little bit about, sorry. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Now we can.
Okay. Now you can. I usually I'm pretty loud. But we chatted a little bit about, there was some little bit of confusion on some of the language. Me and Lisa sat down, made a little bit of adjustments. I did give this to the fire chief. The fire chief feels that there's no more wiggle room with this amendment. This amendment is where it should be with regards to outside storage. So I guess with that, is there any questions or concerns with it? Any additional?
I do not have any myself, personally. Mr. Lilly?
We're talking about the whole fire ordinance now, or just the storage portion?
The storage portion.
The whole
Well,
The whole,
thing?
yeah, the whole packet, I guess, yeah, for all the amendments.
I had no problem with the storage portion. I just, there was some, maybe just a clarification on 1107, the requirements for suppression.
Yeah.
The comments A and B that are made there,
Mhm.
and Counselor, correct me if I'm wrong, they directly correlate to 1107 only, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So there's no misinterpretation. They directly correlate to 1107.
These are for existing buildings, yes.
Okay, okay, that answers that question. That's what our concern, I think, my concern was, so.
I want to, the first part of the 1107, the requirements for suppression of existing one and two family dwellings, existing buildings or structures classified as one or two family when not accessible by fire apparatus and whatever. I don't disagree with that. But I do have a problem with the way that A and B reads, that somebody could interpret that to mean that different from what 1107 says, that those could be used against people that are doing additions to residential homes that are going to be required to have fire suppression or the sprinkler system, and I have an objection to that.
Okay. But, yeah, and that is the
Both
intent of
A
this.
and B. I
Okay.
don't have a problem with the first part, but A and B I do have. I think it's, right now, the way homes are constructed, that we're just adding an additional expense to people to remodel and build new homes, and I don't agree with A and B portion. So if that's to be interpreted the way I'm interpreted it, then I have a problem.
And let me clarify, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. A and B are tied to this amendment. So that would mean that if you cannot access this property, it's not accessible by a fire apparatus, then you'll have to suppress it under these requirements. So if you're building a home on an island, and it's an existing home, or I say existing home on an island, it's certainly not accessible. Well, then all of a sudden you're going to put an addition on it. These are where these rules would come into play here.
But my fear is the interpretation of that by somebody else could make that read that if you're going to put an addition on your home, you're going to be required to do that.
I understand your.
And there'd be some other way to clarify that, to directly tie that in.
There may be, perhaps we can add a sentence that, states, even though it does and is a subsection of 1107, maybe
Could you just make it?
Call it out.
1107A,
1107A, 1107.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what it is, essentially.
Yeah, it's 1107 and then A and B go under.
But that's specifically, that's what it falls. Your interpretation is, could this be perversed?
I guess I'm not following the concern. I think Terry's concern is exactly what's intended by this provision. So basically, it's saying that if you're already there, you're on an island where there's no fire apparatus road, but it's an existing structure, this ordinance isn't going to require you to do anything. However, if you fall within A and B, and that is the modifications to the home that fall within A and B, then you will have to suppress it. It's almost like under the zoning provisions, a legal non-conforming use. If it's non-conforming, fine, but then if you expand it or if you do things to it as defined in that zoning ordinance, then you lose the non-conformity. And that's kind of the theme that he was picking up here.
Now, I think, from what I'm gathering from.
That'll be some way to clarify that further, that is not going to be required against people that have residential homes that are putting on additions or enlarging their facilities.
Yeah, but
they only apply to those.
And that's why it's posted there, Terry, under 1107, because that's all that it applies
My
to.
fear is it's going to get misinterpreted. And it just is a tremendous added expense for somebody to have to go through that could be misinterpreted.
Yes.
Could just add
Use
a
the word
line.
only,
So,
only section.
add a line to clarify that this only applies to homes that are not accessible by fire apparatus.
You could even.
And we,
Says it in 11.
we did say that under 1106, it says, as described in section
Reading this ordinance that wants to
903.2.8.
do an addition.
Yeah, it says right
I'm
there,
not sure.
maybe at the
Read
bottom.
One person at a time.
Clarification, I don't know.
From my experience, people are not gonna pick up something and read the whole page. They're gonna pick a paragraph out of there and read it. And when you pick a or B out of there by itself,
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr.
gonna be a
Lilly, you
problem.
are correct in some cases, and I.
in a lot of cases, that's exactly what happens.
So add to the bottom of A and B both, so it only applies to.
Yeah, in parentheses.
Yeah, just
We
a
can
little-
do that.
little
We can do
asterisk
that.
or
Okay,
something.
so,
I can be creative with the next reading and put it that it only
Yep.
applies to, yeah,
An
sure.
additional statement
Applies
under,
for
Sure.
Properties
These
not
only
accessible
apply
by
to-
fire apparatus.
Okay,
That's really easy to do.
sure.
okay, just add that in, John, I think will be great.
Okay.
Mr. Lilly, was there any other?
no, that was,
And I understand your,
I didn't get a chance to really go through the whole thing. It just kind of struck me funny when I read that paragraph, and I know how things happen, like I say, in the reading of the ordinances. They don't read the whole page, they read a piece of it.
any other questions from the board?
Mr. Supervisor, I talked to Mr. Holland earlier today, Fire Marshal Holland, and we went through a number of items. I had some concerns, like Terry, in the interpretation. He convinced me certainly the interpretations are a certain way, and I concur with them. This was an area that Terry brought up that I originally had concern, if you remember last month, and I believe that it reads very clearly here, but I have no problem always putting in additional
Adding a
clarity
tagline
lines.
or something.
Absolutely. So I got bound down into when can you have combustible storage next to a building, where the point of sale is going to be, because I had a real problem when it says that the sales or storage of combustible material shall not be within 15 feet of a building. Well, all sales are within 15 feet of a building. The registers are within the building, for heaven's sakes. And he pointed out that this is not for the operation of the store or the, say, Lowe's. This is for a sidewalk sale outside where they move the cash register outside, and so it's something totally different than what I was interpreting.
Okay.
So he helped me out a great deal, and I like the changes.
Good job, John, thank you.
Yes.
Any other further questions?
No, I just want to thank you. You listened to
thanks.
all of us and worked hard on it and made our tweaks from last month, so thank you.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, that being said, looking for a motion to move on to second reading.
Make a motion to move to second hearing.
I have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Powell to move on to second reading. All, yes, as amended?
As amended, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, thank you very much. Old business B, second reading of Brendel Road rezoning. Mr. O'Neill?
Hello again. So you probably all recall from last month our discussion regarding the rezoning, excuse me, on Brendel Road. The Planning Commission had a public hearing on June 20th and recommended rezoning of this parcel, which is 78.8 acres in size, from AG to SF, so from agricultural to suburban farm. This is second reading. We went through the comments last time. I'm certainly happy to go through them again. As a refresher, let me go down to page 14, I believe it is. I'll go to the public hearing notice. This is a parcel on the south side of Brendel Road, just east of McKeechee, and the ordinance requires that an applicant submit a concept drawing of what they intend to do in a straight rezoning request, and this is what was provided, showing, again, this parcel being split, not subdivided, but split through the Land Division Act with a private road, and it shows it shows 13 parcels. So here along the north end is Brendel, and many of the lots that he proposes to divide up will have access off of Brendel, but he also plans to put a private road in with the cul-de-sac as well. So I think they might be here. Wrong side. Okay, Brad Thompson is here on behalf of the applicant, if you have any questions for him, but again, it's a pretty straightforward request.
We had this questions, and I don't have any questions at all at this point in time. We've kind of gone through this. Any other of the board members have any questions or concerns? Mr. Lilly?
Motion
Mr. Lilly, please do.
to approve the rezoning, subject to staff and consultant recommendations.
I have a motion
After our end.
by Mr. Lilly, looking for support.
I'll support that.
Support by Andrea Voorhees, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you very much.
Got in there late, huh?
Ms. Voorhees,
Trustee comments, correct?
what you got to say for yourself?
Congratulations to one of my favorite local establishments in White Lake Township. The White Lake Inn opened August 2nd, 1919, so they're celebrating their 100th birthday.
Wow.
This is a little blurb I found in the Milford Times. The new hotel in White Lake, to be known as the White Lake Inn, is to be open to the public on August 2nd. The occasion will be celebrated by a dance in the evening. The hotel is built on the northeast corner of the lake and contains about 10 guest rooms, a large pleasant dining room, and it has a large pleasant dining room and has a wide porch on all three sides. The building is fitted throughout with electric lights, having one of the Delco systems installed by Merle Dustin, and the proprietor is L.E. Adams. And just a little more history. The property that we just rezoned at one time was in my family. It's been out of my family since 1970s. At the time when it was purchased from my grandparents by developers, they at one time, their plan for that was to be 275 because they thought White Lake would be a bustling metropolis. So that was their plan. Obviously, we're still a bustling metropolis, but we're not over on that side of the township. And my favorite premier event is coming up in September, Fisk Farm Fall Festival. You'll see myself and my husband and hopefully some of our elected officials in the food tent. So if any of my elected official friends and peers are able to help out, would be great. Anyone that's in the audience is absolutely willing to come find my husband and I in the food tent. And the hours are 11 to 5 both days with an admission price of $1. I think we all can afford to do that. So that's all I have.
Do you know the date, Andrea?
Oh, I'm sorry, September 7th and 8th. I'm sorry.
Cool. Food tent, that's my favorite place.
Yeah, imagine that.
And it's the food is by Leo, so it's pretty good too.
Mr. Powell?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, thank you. I wanted to thank all the residents that attended and those on live feed. Mr. Supervisor, I was going to ask whether or not you might not request the Road Commission for Oakland County to maybe forward to us any studies that they've done in the recent years to improve the traffic flow on Union Lake Road, north and south, especially in the morning and the evening. I would like to know whether or not they've done any light timing studies. Just being caught up in it and seeing that, it just doesn't seem like they have those things coordinated very well to allow traffic to actually move other than 10 feet a minute.
10 feet at a time.
Yeah, that's correct. So if you could ask that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, certainly will.
And then I ask you, and then maybe Aaron Potter, if they couldn't, if you couldn't include me on some of the sanitary sewer meetings with subdivision associations, and I would like to do what I can to give whatever knowledge I have on trying to forward those projects along a little bit. And that's it, Mr. Supervisor.
And I would like to have some further conversation regarding the Farnsworth Sewer possible extension.
Thank you,
But I
because
don't want you to forget about that.
I won't, because I believe that can be extended at very little cost, if any at all, by the township. I have a couple properties that are willing to pay for that out of their own pocket, and so that would be fantastic.
Most anxious to find out what we can do.
Yeah.
There's no holdup if they want to pay for it out of their own
absolutely.
pocket. Just have them call me.
And there are some creative ways that we can do it, and I have to make sure that you're on board with those creative ways, but I think it can be done.
As long as he's on board, I'm on board.
Well, we'll bring him along.
It's his sewer.
Just one other item, I apologize. I'm certainly in favor of continuing the audio-video of this board meeting next year. It doesn't make any sense at all to stop it, and I believe it's going to have to be a motion of this board in order to continue it. And I'd like that put on the next available board meeting so we can discuss it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. As always, I want to thank all of you that attended tonight's board meeting, and thanks to those watching live. Also, just an FYI, a few years ago, our Phase 1 sewer fund ran short of money. We had bond debt we had to pay, and because of our shortage in that fund, we had to transfer money from the general fund to make our bond payments. We ended up transferring, it's a couple of years ago already, a little over $1.5 million. Just want to let everyone know, I just transferred another $100,000 from the sewer fund back to general. We've now moved $600,000 back, and we continue to bring money into the sewer fund, and we'll continue to transfer money back to general until it's all repaid.
Great, thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
very much.
we're on pace. We're really making good progress. So that's all I had.
Great report. Mr. Lilly.
Mr. Supervisor, at the last board meeting, we had a gentleman here from Aspen Meadows that obviously was upset with the builders in the area up there. I had asked on July 31st for two of our staff people of what had happened on there, and basically one department indicated that there was nothing they could do, and the other department indicated that they had done an inspection and everything was okay up there. I have placed before every board member tonight an email that I received today, and I have met the gentleman at least 2 occasions, and I have pictures on my phone of the conditions that he is having to live with. And I would just take the position as a board member that there's no individual in this township should have to put up with this man has put up with for at least 2 months now. And I believe, as I had indicated in the email to you, that there should be a meeting with any party that's part of this, whether it be the Oakland County soil erosion, be our staff members, be us, and whatever. I do not want to see this gentleman come back before this board and make another complaint. He has some serious issues with flooding on his street there, and no way is this being taken care of. So I'm going to ask the board and ask the supervisor if we can't get a meeting going to bring resolution to this gentleman. If this was my house, I'd be raising the roof off this place, and as a board member, I shouldn't have to have somebody come before the board on several different occasions to get some compliance with what's going on there. It's going to take a meeting with that builder and probably Oakland County soil erosion to get this straightened out, but we need to take some action to get it done.
After going out to the
Thank you.
site and reviewing it, there were some issues there that need to be addressed, and calls have been made to the builder to try to remedy those. We'll see what's going to happen, especially after tonight. So,
As a board member, I'm not going to tolerate a very vagrant problem like this and have somebody embarrass us that we work hard for this township over an issue that needs to be taken care of and need to be taken care of promptly. So.
and we need to get after the county to do so. Thank you.
Ken, don't we have an ordinance that says that we give them 10 days notice, and if you don't do it, we'll come out and cause it to be done?
We have certain ordinances do certain things when it comes to soil erosion. The county is in charge of soil erosion.
I meant for not just weeds and erosion, but I'm talking about for debris and unsightly conditions, attractive nuisances, things like that.
There's more to this story.
So you're saying that we can't just send a truck in there pay for it by the township and then back bill the property owners?
We have to go through a process, but Lisa would be the one to tell you that.
Okay.
No, the noxious weed provisions,
I'm
you
not
can
worried
do
about
something
that.
like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Under just the junk and debris, you would have to follow the process, the municipal civil infraction process. So it'd be writing a citation and having the court order it to be removed. So generally, people don't appear in court, and I get a default judgment or a consent judgment, and I put that language in there that says they have so many days to fix it. If they don't, we can go on without any liability, and then we can charge them the costs and put it on their tax roll. And that's generally how we do those. Otherwise, unless there's some soil erosion provisions from the county, because the county handles soil erosion for White Lake, there might be some provisions that allow them to act quicker because it's more of an emergency situation.
Yeah, that would probably just be putting up a silt fence and sweeping the streets. That wouldn't be getting rid of the junk.
Well,
So-
there is some debris out there that does need to be removed. Some of it has been removed, but there's more things that need to be kind of
Okay.
tidied
Well,
up.
we'll leave it to you, but I'm with Terry. I don't want
Yeah.
this gentleman coming back
No,
next month. That would be terrible.
I didn't bring this issue up, Rick, to embarrass you or anything. I brought it up because even though sometimes our departments are giving a charge, in this case, to take care of the problem, and they find no avenue to do it, just to do nothing or report back to the board that they couldn't do anything would have been at least helpful. I feel as a board member, I don't have to put up with this. I've been a builder, I know how to get along with people, and if it takes a meeting, and I guess we'll get back to communication again, a face-to-face meeting to let them know that we're not gonna take this stuff. There's 150 votes up there. I don't have to take that as a township clerk. And I expect when people call me to at least provide a service to them, and this man has been very patient, overly patient, for the pictures that he has sent me on my phone, and personally has went up there and observed. So,
Thank you.
thank you again, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, the planning commission met last Tuesday on the 15th. We reviewed our annual CIP program there and went over all the projects that were listed in that. So we had a moment to discuss the Civic Center project. Those expenditures and potential dates were in that. So it's the first time that the planning commission has been somewhat briefed on that potential. So we went through that. We have another meeting on the 5th and one on the 19th of September. I'm not sure if they'll actually happen or not yet, but
5th we'll have the public hearing for the CIP, so it's ready to deliver to you on the 17th.
and yeah, I'd like to say great job supervisor for pushing those roundabouts, getting the road commission to move forward with some projects in White Lake. And I've been approached by a couple residents that the dirt roads and the speed limits are such an issue, and I know there's nothing we can do, and I don't know if the road commission can do anything, but particularly, say on McKeechee, Brindle, up there on the north, where there's a lot of horses, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of bicycles, and when somebody's going 55 miles an hour, and they don't yield, it's pretty dangerous. So I don't know if there's some way that maybe you could look into putting up those horse crossing signs. Maybe that would provide us some benefit, Maybe that would.
A road study has to be done in order for that to happen.
Well, road study.
It's
So
about
then
2
maybe it'll
years-
give the
2 years
police
out.
some leeway to help slow some people down, but that would be great.
I've tried 6 ways a Sunday to try to get certain roads slowed down in this township and have only been met with resistance or the answer from Lansing, that's the law, change the law.
Yeah.
And they're not in any hurry to do it. I couldn't agree with you more.
Thanks. Maybe we can get the horse signs.
Or tractor signs.
I like tractor
Yeah,
signs.
those two.
Tractor signs and horse signs.
Really slow them down.
Or real tractors and real horses, just set them out in there and they'll have
Well, I
to
slow them down, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'll just give a quick library update. The next library meeting is Wednesday, August 28th at 6:45. The library had their end of the summer reading program. It was a great success, a huge turnout, and a lot of fun. I enjoyed attending that. And I also want to just mention a save the date the library is having an art competition, and art will be on display from September 9th through October 19th. And it's my understanding it will be voted upon by residents. So just save the date if you'd like to stop in and view the art. It's local artists, which is kind of neat. And then I just want to end with just a moment of remembrance and honor to my dear friend, Oakland County Executive Brooks Patterson, as he recently passed. He was not only a great leader and a mentor to many, but a dear friend to me as well. And he was simply the man that I grew up with, laughing at my kitchen table. So he'll be deeply missed by many. He was always a great support system to me from my christening until I started my life in public service. So I just want to say farewell, friend, and his family is in my prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of different things came up here tonight, different things, and Pete brought up some some ideas and things of that nature.
Okay, I remember that one.
All of that.
I lost my vote.
Yeah, there you go. All of these things are part of the process, and they are appreciated. Okay, and please call Trish and make an appointment. Okay, don't come wandering in off the street. Okay, in between your grandchildren. Okay, thank you. We'll look into some of the issues. One of the things I wanted to call to mind was that our Huron Valley area that we have, we're seeing unprecedented time where things are very prosperous for many, many people. Sometimes what happens when we see all the prosperity and the construction and the new vehicles and just a lot of things going on, and you walk through the parking lot or try to walk through the parking lot over at Kroger, and there's just wall-to-wall cars and everything else, and there's just a lot going on. That we still have the need for folks here in this area, and one area in particular is I don't ever want to see people go hungry, and the police have done a fabulous job here. Dan, my hat's off to you for the food drive you guys did. How much did you guys raise? How many?
It was two, I won't say truckloads, but 2 SUV
Full.
loads. Yeah.
Great job, great job, and that's my hats off to the PD for that. But we have a local organization, the Community Sharing Organization over on Duck Lake Road, and they're going to be having a large garage sale. That the proceeds from that sale will be used to, buy more food and do more things. I had the pleasure of going through there about a little over a week ago, and saw a very committed group of people that really won't turn anyone away. They particularly service our Huron Valley School District, but they've had people come from hither and yon and never let them go without anything. So I would urge everyone to try to attend. That's at 5061 North Duck Lake Road, and that would be Thursday and Friday, September 19th and 20th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the 18th, there's a pre-sale sneak peek, okay, but it costs you $5, but it's worth it because it goes to the charity. So for $5, you can get in from 10 to 5 p.m. And then, of course, I said Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, September 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I would strongly recommend that you consider going there to help support. Now, one of the things that people don't always remember and they think about, we have a lot of people that have issues. But even people that have a hard time often have a loving pet. And sometimes they have difficulties maintaining that pet. And the last thing you want to see is some instability in the family and then someone having to give up an animal that maybe it's that little cornerstone in their life with their kids. I recently lost my best furry friend last Thursday of 13 years, and yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
So it kind of hits home. So if you could all find it in your hearts to support our local community that helps our local need. And even though times are good, we have to remember there are people out here that do need a little extra help. So with that I say,
Rick, can you
yes.
Can you just repeat the dates and times?
The dates, Thursday and Friday, September 19th and 20th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday, September 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the sneak peek is Wednesday, September 18th from 10 to 5. And there's a $5 admission charge.
I believe it's also posted on our township Facebook.
Yeah, I think Tricia's getting that stuff up, make sure it's out there. But I just want everyone to take a look at that. Our regards to the Patterson family. There are some interesting things. Brooks always had a very unique sense of humor. And there was they played a joke that he said at his wake, and Brooks was saying, he goes, so I was at the rehab and I was trying to get better, and I was in there with 2 other guys, and this really, really attractive young lady walked by, and she went off over to this machine up ahead of me, and she got on this machine and started doing her stuff, and I looked at the therapist next to me and I said, what machine can I get on her to impress her? He looked back at me and says, the ATM machine. But Brooks was a character unto himself and will be greatly missed. And I certainly hope that some of the rumors that I've been hearing about a potential movement to remove his name from the county executive building and a few other places are just that, rumors. So, yeah. So to that I say good night, God bless. Good night, Carol. And thank you all.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.